Okay, so onto our teams. And firstly, Andy, we've got your team on screen. Could you read it out for our podcast listeners and let us know your plans?
Yeah, I've got McCarthy in goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ayling, Chilwell, Kyle Walker-Peters, making up the back four. Then I've got the new Hazard, Podence. Son is the new Salah and Podence the new Hazard. Son, Salah, Sterling in the midfield, so very strong on paper in the mid there. And then I've got Calvert-Lewin and Kane up front. So obviously there's a tough fixture on paper there for Liverpool. I just want to, you were talking about Trent, the fact that you've got Trent and Robbo. Before anyone takes Trent out, and it's a pretty obvious move if you're on a wild card, and probably some people would be looking at it right now thinking, right, he's over 7 mil, premium asset, I'm looking at upgrading mids. Take a look at Trent's numbers and his heat maps. When we talked about it briefly last week at the end of the pod, when Henderson is on the pitch. For me, the reason that Trent hasn't performed up until the last couple of games, as Adam was saying on the last few games, is that Henderson has not really been in the team. When Henderson plays, I think, we've seen tonight as well, Trent's got one of the assists. I think when Henderson plays, it just frees Trent up. Now, whether that's Henderson's work rate, I'm sure if you look at his, tracking back skills, he's probably one of the fittest players in the league. I just think he's just a different player with Henderson on the pitch. I wonder whether Klopp was keeping him back when Henderson was out the team. So for me, Trent is still in there, and until there's an injury or a significant downturn in Liverpool's performances. I know they've been weak defensively, but that's probably due to some other factors like Alisson and Henderson being out. So anyway, sorry, that's an aside on Trent. The problem with this team I've got right now is that, as you can see, I'm pretty, my midfield covers a lot of the budget. So, my bench is Brewster, Basuma and Justin. So there's not a lot of flexibility there. So, when I sit there and look at Sterling, should have really scored over the last 2 game weeks. But yet he's consuming 11.5 mil. And then I look at assets like Jota or Grealish, and that would obviously enable a Brewster upgrade. Although I still, he had a couple of chances last game week. But yeah, I think I need to get a kind of mid-priced midfield in for Sterling, and maybe get a striker in there, and then that'll stop me having to play 4 at the back. Because although goals have normalised, I still don't see a lot of clean sheets coming through. So yeah, at the moment I've got Son as the captain. I'm just enticed by this away fixture element.
Are you saving your transfer this week?
At the moment I'm saving. Yeah, I don't really. I'd like to have 2. Yeah, I'd like to have 2 just to be able to kind of move Sterling to someone attractive. Sterling should have returned. The reason I don't want to take Sterling out, right, guys, and we've just talked about City's fixtures, but yeah, they have. In my opinion, they're fixture proof. But they've got Burnley in 10 and Fulham in 11,
and West Brom in 13.
Yeah, and they've been unlucky. Sterling has been unlucky. I think he probably does need that central striker to be back so that he can he's playing more centrally. And forget even prior to being played as the central role occasionally this season, I think when he's kind of positioned on that wing, he's playing more centrally than he has done, which is great. So yeah, so the Sterling conundrum for me is a tough one. I think I'm going to keep him but that does limit me.
I think you've got to leave him. Jesus is back on the bench now this evening, and Aguero is due back on the weekend. He's going to definitely be back by game week 9, so that solves
one of them will do that
issue. And then you taking him out on game week 9 ahead of that fixture in game week 10. I just think you're asking for trouble, person.
And Sterling and Man City are kind of, I feel like they're on the brink of a smashing a team, if not a couple of teams. So I think, and Sterling will be a major part of that. The one question mark is that he's playing a lot of 90-minute games. So I want to see him subbed off.
I don't think Sterling's doing it at the moment, unfortunately, and I think for his price, he's not getting anywhere near the numbers. If you look at XGC, XGA, chance it, he's getting some okay positions, but he's so far off what you would want. And I think you should get rid of him, and I think you should bring De Bruyne in. No, I think this is the thing. He can be.
But that doesn't really kind of explain that doesn't help the upgrade of the forward.
Oh, no. It doesn't. That's your problem, but but I think for me, just having watched second half of Sheffield United again tonight, De Bruyne is just involved in absolutely everything, and I think he's the best City asset to own. I just don't think they're the same team without him. So
yeah, I think another blanket. I might be looking. I'll have 2 transfers in Sterling to someone like Jota, and then maybe Brewster up to a kind of a Bamford or one of those kind of mid-price. Maybe Antonio will be back.
There is no way in this world, right, that you are taking Sterling out when his next fixture shows as home, like Burnley home. You're not getting it right. I'm taking him out. I've had enough. There's no way in the world.
I don't know. It's a big price point to be sitting there getting 2 points a week, and he's not guaranteed for 90 minutes. So, he's played a lot this season.
But that's why I think you need to do it now. And actually, it's quite a good time to do it because, well, maybe not the Liverpool game because he actually did quite well versus Liverpool last season. But I think some of the fixtures, I think Spurs away, I think De Bruyne could do quite well in that one. I just prefer De Bruyne at the moment by some distance. Just more from a stats perspective, he just looks involved in absolutely everything.
If you were doing the downgrade, Jota's just scored his hat-trick. So
has he? Well, there you go.
So there's your Sterling down to Jota.
Okay. Yeah, going on to the captaincy for decision. Obviously, for me, one of the Spurs assets. Although I do think there's a couple of other options, but let's be honest, most people are going to be on the Spurs assets basis. The way that they're playing, I've already sung their praises. It's the Son away fixture. As I mentioned, 24, 18 and 11 in his last 3
He's on the
games.
decline though, Andy. 24, 18, 11.
It's this huge decline, huge decline. But the concern I have, well, there's 2 things really. Concern I have with Son is that he might be pegged on the left wing. And we know that Kane is just because of his very positioning, even if he's playing in more of a midfield slot, he is just more centrally involved. And of course, it's the penalty aspect. So, pretty much, I've got it on Son right now, but it's literally a coin flip. I do want to. I'll see whether either of them come on and how they look midweek in Europe, but I honestly don't expect either of them to get a lot of minutes, and it's going to be a tough decision because we know that Kane for me is more consistent, but Son is, as we know from this season, more explosive.
On to Adam's team. So Adam, could you read out your team for our podcast listeners and tell us your thoughts?
Yeah, so got ever reliable McCarthy in goal. I've got Trent, Ayling and Justin at the back. In midfield, I've got Foden, Mane, Rashford and Son. And then up front, Bamford, Kane and Calvert-Lewin. I'm thinking at the moment, I'll captain Kane, so that's done. Don't need to worry about that. There's a couple of transfers on my mind. I don't like Foden, and I get the argument of keeping him and all of that. But after the international break, if you wrote down a list of every single attacking City player who could haul, you've got Torres, Sterling, De Bruyne, Foden, Aguero, Jesus. It's just too difficult. For the De Bruyne's consistent, but it's just like guessing who's going to haul. It's just too much, and I just don't think. I think Foden will do okay, but I just think there's better options. So I'm tempted to do Foden. I've got the money to do Foden to Grealish. Could do that. I am tempted by Diogo Jota, and I think it's not just because he's got a hat-trick tonight. The performance of the weekend, and then the one versus Sheffield United, and actually when he came on versus, it just looks so good. Yes. So I think I'll get him in at some point, and what I may do, and so I think I'll probably bring in Grealish this week. I do want to get a Chelsea defender, but then if I bring in a Chelsea defender, it gives me a bit of a headache. Who do I bench out of Ayling away to Palace, Justin at home to Wolves, or Trent away to City? So I'll end up probably, I just don't know if it's worth the headache, and a -4. So if I'm ditching Foden, so I'll probably just do the one move. Which will either be Jota or Grealish in for Foden. And then what I may do the following, after the international break, is go big on a hit and set my team up for, those 3 or 4 game weeks.
Adam, can I ask you a question? Because it kind of feeds into my Sterling out potentially. If Antonio regains fitness in the next couple of weeks, would you look at, it's that third striker spot, Bamford or Antonio? Because Bamford, for me, he's getting the chances. Leeds are looking like a good team, but just looking at some of those stats, it's so reminiscent of Tammy Abraham last season when I just captained them, I think 2 or 3 game weeks in a row, and he just blanked despite having chances put on a plate for him. Whereas we know Antonio is almost the opposite. He's kind of fixture proof. He's clinical. He's basically everything you want from a striker.
I'm happy with Bamford. I was happy with his performance last night. I think what I like, because I think with my strikers, and this is what puts me off Wilson a little bit, and it started to put me a bit off Jimenez, is when you're watching a game, you want to see your team constantly attacking and have chances to score. And I felt Bamford last night should have scored, really. I mean, it's probably, he missed some sitters, and that is, he's consistent with what he did last season. Yeah. But he's going to keep getting the chances for Leeds, and he will be Leeds' talisman. So I think for his price, you can't really argue with him. I don't think there's anything to not like. I mean, it's worse not getting the chances in my opinion. So I'm going to keep Bamford, and I think Leeds have got 3 out of the next 4 are away, and they seem to be better away from home. Bamford's done better away from home, so no, I'm happy. I'm happy with Bamford. I think what I might do long term is, and this could be after the international break, is ditch Kane and possibly go to, it might even be to Brewster, and then do Basuma to De Bruyne, and go that way and go big in midfield. Yeah, I think it's the way to go. Because if you looked at, I update my shortlist every week. I'm quite strict on players that I put in there, and you can see straight away it's all midfielders now. I've only got the players the forwards that I haven't got that I would want to be Vardy and Watkins. There aren't loads in there, so
you're making the Foden move this week?
I don't like having him, and I just think. I just think there are better options, and I'm going to 100% want Grealish for the game after, so it will be a move that I won't regret, unless he gets injured. So I just see no reason not to do it this week.
It's a good move. I mean,
I think with City as well, I don't know if Foden will start, and even when he is starting, Torres is outstatting him at the moment, for example. So I'm not. I think I've seen this happen time and time again. Think I'll give him another game, or I'll give him another game. It doesn't work out. If you're not happy with a player, just get rid of them and move on. I've been there. Wore the Foden t-shirt, didn't like it. Gonna go back to.
You're gonna regret it, Adam. You're gonna regret it.
I'm not. Do you know? I'll tell you the reason I won't regret it as well is because I'm bringing Grealish in. He's my favourite player. So how can I regret bringing in Grealish? Because at least when, it takes a slight mini bit of the shine off it when he's scoring and getting points and you don't own him.
So we've got one bet open, which I'm winning, and that was Jimenez goals against Watkins. We've got 1 game left on that, and I'm 2-1 up. My next bet.
Is it 1 game though? Is it? We said 5, and we've had 3, I think.
Okay, it might be that.
So basically, Jimenez scored 2 in a row. Watkins has got 1 back. Okay, consolation.
So our next bet is I think Foden. Outscores Grealish from game week 10 to 13.
Hang on, I want the Pulisic versus Grealish one for the rest of the season.
Oh, there we go, and we'll look in that as well.
I'll tell you what. Let's go. Let's do a 3-way.
Oh, hello.
A bit of a 3-way on the plot. Let's go let's do a 3-way over. You can pick the
5 game weeks from game week 10 to 14. Foden, Pulisic, Grealish. We'll do that.
Right, in FPL points or goals?
Whatever you want. I'm not confident.
Game week 10's boring. I think we need to do it from this game week. So
but Pulisic is got a hamstring injury. It's like I'm down 2 game weeks already.
Okay,
around.
We'll sort it out anyway. But that is on. We'll sort out the exact.
I don't even think. I'm definitely not worried about that. Grealish has got that hands down with his fixture. So
there we go.
Balls come in, and he's like I said, he's with all the touches he's having in the box, he's going to create
from game
stuff,
week 9 in, right? So we'll get this game week out of the way. So Pulisic is fit. Game week 9 for 5 game weeks. Yeah, we'll do
to get 9 to 13.
9 to 13.
Oh, that's got.
No, hang on. I talk about the rest of the season.
Oh, that's a long.
It's a long way. That is. It's a long way.
We'll lose the.
Well, we might be able to meet up for that beer by the end of the season.
Well, yeah.
I think from now to the end of the season, I don't even think there's a question that Grealish.
Yeah, Pulisic, exactly. Pulisic, exactly. I mean, there's no question.
It's not a question. Pulisic he'll get injured again. I won't even have to worry about it. He won't even play enough games to match Grealish. It's not even a points per game issue. It will just be. So not worried.
It could be. Yeah, that's the risk. It's the risk.
It's a huge risk because he will get injured again.
Okay, so moving on to my team finally then. So I have Martinez in goals. I've already made a transfer, actually. I did move out said Alexander-Arnold on Sunday night because I thought that I saw he was dropping and Creswell was rising, so I did them and they both duly dropped and rose. So I've made a save 0.2 there, actually. I made that one move. I did have two free transfers. So I've got Creswell, Robertson, James, and I've got Sight at the moment, but I'll touch on him now. I then got Foden, Son, and Fernandes in midfield, and the very fortunate Watkins, I think, to have that penalty on Saturday. I've got Kane and I've got Werner. I'm quite happy with Werner with the fixture this week, and I've got Podence first on the bench. Now I have got a second transfer, and my immediate plan, I haven't done it yet because I wanted to wait till the European games were out of the way, but I'm planning on doing Sice to Chilwell, which I can afford, which will give me a double up for this weekend on James and Chilwell. Obviously, if James starts, but they're home to Sheffield United, so I quite like that. But my plan is to get rid of James because he's just I can't handle him being in one week and not the other. So I'm moving in Chilwell alongside James for this game week with their plum fixture, and I'll probably look to move out James in the future to either someone like Kilman or someone else to release a few funds. So moving forward, then I'll have a back three of Creswell, Robertson, and Chilwell, which I'm quite happy with. My other option, or I could even do a -4, was to move Podence then onto either Jared Bowen, who does excite me. The only issue if I do that then is if Antonio is back the week after, I'd probably prefer Antonio to Bowen, and I wouldn't want to double up. That's what's holding me back. But with all Adam's love for Grealish, I can't believe this. If I get Grealish in now, I'm gonna have a double off on Grealish and Watkins purely because Adam has told me it's
do you know what? This is a tactic. I know what you're doing. I know. So you're taking the bets and covering yourself.
I will have triple Villa. If I do that in Martinez, Grealish, and Watkins, but also with Grealish and Watkins. I think obviously Grealish is a far better long-term pick than Watkins, so I can move.
I think Watkins is fine though. If you look, I don't know.
I don't want to double up.
Look at Villa's fixtures from game week. After the international break onwards? Yeah. It is literally as good as you can get.
Yeah, but Watkins, he had to beg for his points.
He's on pens.
Yeah,
but is he? Because it looked like they did a whole Aubameyang to Lacazette the other year. I'm not sure.
Like I said with Grealish, he might be the designated penalty taker, but there's been so many times that he's just backed away or he's not taking them, and I think Watkins will keep them.
I don't want to dwell on the past, but why did you take out Trent rather than Sice? Because Sice was a doubt, and Trent's pretty much nailed.
Because my plan is to have both of them out, so I couldn't. So I took out Trent because I knew he was definitely going.
Right, so Sice, you didn't know that Sice was going to get dropped. Okay,
yeah. So I moved on Trent. Sorry, I moved Trent on because he was dropping, and I knew he was definitely leaving my team anyway. And I brought in Creswell because I knew he was rising. I definitely wanted him in. The other one is Sice to Chilwell, but obviously Chilwell hasn't played yet. He's playing tomorrow night, so I'll do it after then as long as he's.
And what about Foden? Are you going to keep him?
Oh, definitely, all the way through. I am, and I'm going to have Jota at some point as well.
If you go Foden, If you go Foden to Grealish, then you got triple Villa. Perfect, right? Just as they go off their run of form.
I know, yeah. So I'm probably going to look to go on, to a similar team of like a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 with 3 cheap strikers. But I'm quite excited. I still won't have Salah because, all right, he's still with 8 points on the weekend. I think he was fortunate to end up, as the top captaincy choice out of, Kane, Son, and Salah. I thought it was fortunate. I still think he is a bit expensive for what he is, but I know there's probably only out of the 7.4 million FPL managers hold that view. But I'm quite excited for a midfield 5 of Foden, Son, maybe Bruno, maybe not using it at the moment, De Bruyne, Grealish, maybe Jota, for example. I think that's quite exciting midfield, exciting defence as well, actually. And then having that forwards 3 then of Calvert-Lewin, Bamford, and either Watkins, or Wilson or something like that. So that's my kind of plan of the next few weeks. But Foden for me in that period, in that 4-game period, I think he's going to score a lot of points. I think over the 4 games, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 30 points over the 4 games. But we will see, and the beer will talk, gents, at the end of it when
I just think he'll end up playing deeper. That's the issue I have with Foden, because if you look at, at the moment they've got Aguero and Jesus out, and he's playing in midfield tonight. I don't think that suits him from an FPL perspective. And I think when you throw in the likes of Aguero and Jesus, I think you just get, then you've got Mahrez, Torres, and Sterling. And so I think he's just going to end up playing further and further back. And I'm not convinced that. We haven't even mentioned Bernardo Silva as well, so I'm just not convinced that suits him. It's a shame because I thought he looked really good against when he came on versus West Ham. He looked okay in the Champions League last week, but even in the Champions League match last week, he didn't, from a stats perspective, he posted very, very little. So I've just gone off him completely. I think he'll do okay, but I just think there's better options.
I plan on having him and Grealish, so I'm going to have more. But anyway,
covering yourself. Get Pulisic in as well.